For the first time this season, the two silver Mercedes are separated by not one, but two scarlet Ferraris at the front of the grid. All of the top 10 starting on the soft tyre, the option tyre. We're looking at potentially a one-stop race here with the lead teams stopping around lap 20. But if it's a two-stop race, they might be stopping a little bit earlier than lap 19 and then a stop later on around mid-30s. Ready to go away on the formation lap here, and Lewis Hamilton leads the grid away with those Ferraris around him. Raikkonen on that front row and Sebastian Vettel starting from third position, and we are looking forward to a tremendous race. One of the shorter races in terms of time on the calendar, but it should be fast and furious. Tom, any last observations before we get this race underway?
Well, Ben, I sense real tension in the pit lane here because just so much is at stake on that long run to the first corner. And let's not forget the new start procedures that were introduced at the Belgian Grand Prix 2 weeks ago. So if you make a bad start with more emphasis placed on the drivers, as Rosberg did at Spa, you're going to carry that error for an awfully lot longer this afternoon. And a quick word on the Red Bulls. They entered this race knowing that they were going to have grid penalties. So they've done a lot of long fuel running. They're starting the race on the medium tyre, which gives them really good strategy options. Watch out for Kvyat and Ricciardo.
Thank you, Tom. So, David, lots to look forward to here. A lot of it's about the start, of course, and that run down to the first chicane. And as at Spa, the drivers are now not being given any help on that over the radio. It's down to them.
Yeah, they've done all their clutch bite point fines and all of the procedures that are now available to them at the end of qualifying. And you know, just picking up on the importance of that long run to the first corner, we know that Niki Lauda has expressed some concerns to Lewis Hamilton over how aggressive Kimi Raikkonen might be on that run to the first corner, and that he's asked Lewis to be cautious. Well, that does fly in the face of every natural instinct that Lewis has. He's a sort of natural-born racer. He sees a gap, he goes for it, and that's usually what separated him from the other good drivers out there. But I think it is going to be interesting to see. Ferrari have clearly done a strategy to help Raikkonen over Vettel in qualifying, and how is that going to play out in that long run to this first corner?
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely fascinating to see. Just a quick note about Max Verstappen. He is starting from the very back of the grid because he didn't set a time in qualifying. For those of you who saw qualifying, you'll have seen that the bodywork flew off the car, and it's actually given him an extra penalty because effectively the car was sent out not in a safe condition, and he will have a drive-through penalty within the first 3 laps. So poor Max Verstappen is going to have an even tougher afternoon.
Yeah, well, for what it's worth, in some of the support races this morning, the inside, which is rows 2, 4, 6, and so on, have actually been making pretty good starts. There isn't as big a separation in the grip levels, despite the pole position being on what should be the clean side of the racetrack. We had rain over the weekend. It's therefore not as rubbered in as we would have seen at other Italian Grand Prix, so expect the lap times to be dropping during the race as that rubber gets planted into the tarmac.
So just to remind you, Hamilton on pole, then Raikkonen and Vettel. Rosberg starts 4th, Massa and Bottas 5th and 6th. Keep an eye on the Williams this weekend. Perez and Grosjean 7th and 8th, and Hulkenberg and Maldonado completing the top 10. Will Stevens is going to get himself a bit swamped. He starts 13th in the Marussia here today with some fast cars behind, so he's going to have to try and stay out of trouble on the run down to the first corner. And then from the very back, remember, we've got the Red Bulls, and they are starting on the harder tyre. They're looking to go slightly deeper into the race before the start. The last time a Ferrari won here was 5 years ago. What can they do versus Hamilton today? Lights out, away we go. Raikkonen stopped, and he can't get going. Now he gets going, and so Hamilton has a virtually clear run, but Vettel is right with the Mercedes. Raikkonen right to the back of the field, and Vettel's attacking into the first corner, but he can't get alongside the Mercedes, and that has allowed Massa into 3rd, Bottas into 4th. Rosberg's having a horrible time of it. He's right in the melee, but I think he just managed to stay clean through there.
I think a McLaren might have lost part of his front wing as well. There was some other contact, and is it a Maldonado? Yeah, Maldonado driving slowly, but Raikkonen, it looked like he went to anti-stall. The car didn't move as the lights went out.
Well, all change here then. The Williams have really gained here because Massa's in 3rd, Bottas is in 4th place, and then Perez has started well. He's in 5th place. Grosjean's in there in 7th. He's not really gained much, just a place or so. Behind him is Felipe Nasr and Nico Hulkenberg. Jenson Button's had a good start because he's moved up to 11th place. Alonso's currently in 13th place, but Lewis Hamilton got the start he needed, under pressure into the first corner, but able to fend off the Ferrari, and already he's beginning to open up a bit of a gap. As we look further down the field there, that's Nico Hulkenberg in 9th place.
Well, quite remarkable. We haven't seen a driver be stopped on the grid like that, and by the time Raikkonen managed to get the momentum, he's firmly at the back, and as the battles here, you can see the Force India is having to go defensive on the Sauber.
I think Nasser's got a problem. He slowed down and lost several places on the exit of Ascari. He ran wide, so Nasser's in trouble in the Sauber. On board Kimi Raikkonen. Of course, he dropped right to the back of the field, but he's got a fast Ferrari, so he's going to try and make up for that. Ricciardo's 14th, I believe, or 13th now as he's crossed the line, and Raikkonen's 14th, so that's going to be interesting. And Rosberg's in 6th, although I think he's just got past Perez, so that puts him 5th now. So Nico Rosberg, who really didn't get away well at all, has now gained a place into the pits. Verstappen for his drive-through, and Nasser because something has gone wrong on that opening lap. We've got yellows as well on track at the moment. Seeing Rosberg already having got past Perez, of course, now trying to catch up the two Williams just ahead of him.
He was having to go defensive there to the Force India, and it'll be interesting once we get DRS. We know the Force India is set up with very low wing levels, so if they can stay within a 1 second window of Rosberg, then he might have a chance to come back at him.
Well, we got Maldonado's car stopped at the side of the track. There was definitely... oh, that's Grosjean, sorry. I assumed it was Maldonado because we'd seen him going slowly, but that's Romain Grosjean who is stopped. That means we've lost both Lotus cars within the first 2 laps. So after the delight of that podium finish at Spa last week, I'm afraid it's misery this weekend for Lotus. They appear to have lost both cars. Maldonado's in the pits at the moment. I don't know whether they'll be able to repair his car and get him back out again, but Grosjean's definitely retired from this race.
Well, I can see from our vantage point the Maldonado's on the short stands and being pushed back into the garage, so that looks like it's terminal for him as well.
Oh, would you believe it? They only got the cars here Wednesday night. On board with Raikkonen here. He's now chasing after Daniel Ricciardo and trying to gain the place from the Red Bull, and of course the Ferrari power unit is pretty effective. Let's see, the DRS is enabled now, so he's got that advantage, but not quite there.
Daniel Ricciardo had DRS as well, so that helped neutralise. That's Carlos Sainz in front of the Toro Rosso.
Yeah, good start for Carlos Sainz, wasn't it? He did start ahead of Ricciardo on the grid, but they were towards the back. And Kimi Raikkonen now in 12th place, out of the points, throwing away that brilliant first row start for him. But he is going on the attack there, out of turn 3, down towards the second chicane, where we might well see drivers try and overtake. We saw a brilliant manoeuvre from Daniel Ricciardo there last year on Sebastian Vettel, if you remember. Up front, meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton has opened up 2-second lead over Sebastian Vettel in second.
Well, this little battle here just gives Jenson Button running in 9th a little bit of a breather. And under normal conditions, he will be very vulnerable to those faster cars behind. The Honda straight line speed once again causing a lot of difficulties for the team as Raikkonen does a late look down the inside into Ascari, and very close to touching as Daniel gives him just enough space. They'll both be slow out of Ascari in the run down to Parabolica, but he's in the slipstream. He'll be going for the pass.
Here comes Raikkonen down the inside towards Parabolica, and indeed, surely that's going to be a very easy pass on Daniel Ricciardo. They both lost a little bit of speed through the fast chicane, but Raikkonen was able to make the most of it. So that brings Raikkonen up into 11th place now, just 1 outside the points.
As we see the start here, so lights go out. Raikkonen doesn't move at all. It's almost like he wasn't in gear, because normally if you have an anti-stall moment, you'll just see the car nod its nose and then flick into anti-stall. But was he caught? We'll find out in time, of course, but it didn't look to me, Ben, like there was any movement from that car at all.
Well, we thought the banning of radio messages.
Yeah, he dropped the clutch and there was just nothing. It didn't react at all to that. So Well, he was sitting there with RPM raised. I couldn't actually see on the dashboard whether he had a gear selected, but we've got to assume he would.
Well, the lack of radio communications, they did say it might make the starts less predictable, but that certainly was unexpected, to say the least. And Kimi Räikkönen dropping way down to the back of the field.
Let's just look out for where the contact was in the middle of the pack.
Well, one Lotus bounced over the curb, knocking another car into another one, but I couldn't quite see which was which.
Yeah, game of skittles in that chicane. We've seen it many times. Compromised to start with Nico Rosberg as he had to take avoiding action. It's just a few, sort of 8 meters between the grid slots, and he gets swamped down into turn one. Such a tight corner here, so you can see the compromise as he tries to sneak around the outside of the Force India, who then just accelerates across the front of his car. Daniel Ricciardo hooks it up well. Starts finding the slot. They're allowed to cross that white line this year. It's been clarified by the FIA. In previous years, you weren't allowed to cross over, and it's a sort of no man's land between the racetrack and the pit wall. And just look at that concertina effect, how slow you have to go. Just exactly like we experience when we're driving on the motorways and cars seemingly come to a halt for no reason. And this is Räikkönen trying to find his way around the outside, and that's a second chicane.
Well, the Italian Prime Minister keeping an eye on things here this weekend, Matteo Renzi, and well, it wasn't exactly the start the Ferrari were looking for there, was it? But they've still got one car in the mix, of course. Vettel is running in a strong second place. We're back with Räikkönen as he battles for a bit further back.
Yeah, just past Sainz, I believe. That's Button next on his list.
So, Jenson Button, the one just ahead in the McLaren Honda. And Rosberg, meanwhile, has closed the gap to Bottas. So just a few tenths of a second now between the Mercedes and the Williams. Still running with Räikkönen here, though, and you can see how quickly he catches that McLaren Honda on the straight section down to the second chicane. The car looks pretty nimble through the chicane itself, but now, when the energy recovery comes into the equation, that's where the Ferrari will have the advantage. There's Rosberg, close to Williams, the Williams of Bottas. Behind them is Perez, then Hulkenberg. Force India's a little bit on their own. Ericsson hanging on in there, and the Sauber in 8th place. Good position for him to be in early in this race. And there's Button then, and surely he's going to fall victim to Kimi Räikkönen on the way into Ascari. Yes, he does. Räikkönen, and listen to the cheer in the background. The Tifosi are loving seeing the Ferrari move up through the field. But of course, he's got a lot of ground to make up, because he is, what, some 20 seconds behind race leader Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, that is a big gap already, and we haven't seen much of Hamilton. He's just on the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, 3.2 seconds ahead of Sebastian Vettel, who's exactly that distance in front of Felipe Massa. So a bit of a formation with a comfortable gap between each of those drivers. Bottas keeping up Massa, his teammate, honest, at only 1.2 seconds behind, and coming under pressure from Rosberg. Well,
Button now being sized up by Carlos Sainz. We're back on board with Rosberg here as the Williams ahead just jumps over the curb.
Why does the overtake not work?
So it looks like it is working, Nico. We can see it working on the start-finish straight.
So that's presumably a mode to give them a little bit more power.
Yeah, just to clarify, that'll be a full power mode as the Button getting under pressure from Sainz goes over the curbs, just trying to give the Toro Rosso as much room as possible, and they carry that battle down to the Lesmo.
Oh, Button hanging on in there for as long as he possibly could, but I think he's going to be passed by Daniel Ricciardo as well. Ricciardo gets alongside the McLaren Honda, and sure enough, he's lost another place.
Yeah, it's a sorry state of affairs. You know, Jenson doing everything he can, but unquestionably the Honda engine is the least efficient of the power units that's out there. Whether the internal combustion engine is as efficient or not, we can't possibly know, but certainly the deployment of the electrical energy that they store is not optimized, I think is the word that McLaren would use.
Yeah,
the relationship becoming strained already at Honda.
Definitely, there are frustrations beginning to surface, aren't there, in that relationship between McLaren and Honda. They've kept it together pretty well up until now, but definitely there is some annoyance around. Battle for 10th place that we're watching now. Carlos Sainz has got himself into 10th place. Daniel Ricciardo behind, and here comes Danny Kvyat now on Jenson Button. Should be relatively straightforward pass using DRS on the brakes into the first chicane, and that then basically puts the two McLarens line astern. Alonso's a little further back here, but Alonso is now the next car in the field.
Yeah, visually you can just see the difference in acceleration there as the cars come off the turn. It neutralises once they get into the Curva Grande, but that initial phase of acceleration, that's where the electrical energy that's harvested in modern Formula One really benefits the lap time, because you're accelerating the mass off the turn. As soon as you're not traction limited, that's where they give a big boost of that horsepower that's stored in the battery packs, and that's exactly where that Honda engine is weak.
Out in front, Lewis Hamilton with nearly a 4-second lead already over Sebastian Vettel. There's the Ferrari in second position. Felipe Massa is still in third place, and Williams will be very hopeful that they can beat the other Ferrari of Kimi Räikkönen, of course, who's still trying to recover from that start earlier.
So, Nico, just look after those front brakes for a bit. We're getting quite a high wear for the last lap.
And that is a factor here, there's no doubt about it. They are a little bit marginal, all the cars on brakes, because they just use them so much here.
So Rosberg has high front brake wear. He's struggling with his brakes. This is looking good.
Ten laps have been completed. We're on to lap 11 now, out of 53 here at the magical Monza circuit. Lewis Hamilton has nearly 6 seconds advantage already, which is an astonishing amount in the early stages of the Grand Prix. Vettel's hanging on to second. Massa and Bottas are third, but Carlos Sainz is going to have a 5-second time penalty at his pit stop for leaving the track and gaining an advantage, right? So obviously went wide or through one of the chicanes and didn't perhaps give the time back, and he's coming in for a pit stop. Oh, he locks up big time. There's a lot of time to be gained or lost at pit entry, and they will leave it to the absolute last moment before they break. But that was all 4 wheels locked as he came in. So he'll have to serve the 5-second now, I guess. Wait for the 5 seconds to pass, and then they can go to work.
Yeah, and we know that he had a correspondence with the communication with the team asking about how the front axle is, and he said it was a bit lazy. So that's one of the allowed communications between pit wall and driver, to ask effectively whether he wants any more front wing put into the car or front wing taken out of the car. So I assume at that stop they would have put a couple of turns of front flap, and that just puts some extra load on that front axle.
Interesting strategy. You'd think he is definitely going for a 2-stop race. Look at him lock up here at the pit entry.
Well, it's incredibly high speed down to that pit limit line, and higher speed than we'd see at a lot of circuits because you're coming off the parabolica.
So Nico, brakes are improving with that management.
Like I hear a strange noise. I think something on the exhaust.
So an odd noise coming from Hulkenberg's car. Well, there's Romain Grosjean walking back. It certainly looked as though the two Lotuses were involved in the same incident, effectively. It did look a bit like Grosjean hopped over the curb on the inside, which then squeezed a car out, which then squeezed Maldonado out. But difficult one to judge from.
Well, that's certainly what we're hearing, that both cars have been retired because of accident damage. So frustration for that team after the high of Spa, the difficulty of the financial question marks, and well, you see the brake dust coming off Rosberg's car as he was braking down into Parabolica, so visibly more dust coming off his front brake system than the Williams. He's getting himself into DRS zone. Bottas could well be vulnerable this time.
Let's have a look. Rosberg will no doubt have a little think about it into the first chicane. He is having a think, but he's not quite there. A bit half-hearted, and of course he can end up losing time by making a half-hearted attempt, but actually it doesn't cost him too much. He's still tucked into the slipstream of the Williams. Now this is where he'll try and deploy some of the extra hybrid power. Bottas is aware of that, so he covers the inside here, and Rosberg will have to be brave to go around the outside into the chicane, and actually doesn't even try it at this still relatively early stage.
So difficult for a driver when you're defending at high speed down into that second chicane. You take the shallow line. You know you're picking up some dirt on the tyres. You know there's not as much rubber laid because it's not the regular line. So to judge your braking, incredibly difficult. But Bottas doing a good job here. You can see the dirty air that Rosberg has run in through Lesmo 1 and 2. It's just given Bottas a bit of a breather. Rosberg coming out of the slipstream, presumably to allow some airflow through his brakes. We know he's marginal, and running in the slipstream enables you to accelerate the car more quickly, but you just don't get such effective cooling. There again you see Rosberg cooling the brakes, so whether that's information he's been given from his engineers, which is a safety concern and can be transmitted, or whether he's seeing that on his dashboard, we'll find out in time.
Yeah, last year we saw Danny Kvyat get into brake trouble here with a brake disc actually exploding on him right towards the end of the race. He still managed to bring the car home, amazingly, but brakes are always right on the limit at this circuit. And in fact, on this lap, Rosberg has dropped back a little bit, if anything, after making that little bit of an attempt on the last lap. Maybe he's now able to build up the energy again.
Nico, just be aware, brakes very hot. Brakes are hot.
Well, that's probably why he's just given a bit of a breather on the brakes. In fact, when I say build up energy, I don't mean his own physical energy, of course. I mean the hybrid power, maybe for an extra boost of overtaking speed. Sebastian Vettel, nothing much he seems to be able to do to stay on terms with the race leader Hamilton. There's the boss of Ferrari, Sergio Marchionne, who's here this weekend, very rarely attends the Grand Prix. It was this race last year, actually, that Luca de Montezemolo had his final race in charge of the Ferrari outfit. Now, let's take a look at this as Max Verstappen is making the move on Jenson Button. Well, he's trying to, but Button is sticking with him around the outside, but he can't for long, surely. No, has a bit of a wobble, and Max Verstappen therefore moves up into 12th position. So, good recovery so far, this from Verstappen.
Brace yourself, Ben. We might be about to see a Honda overtake someone else.
He's coming back, isn't he, Jenson Button? But Verstappen's going to be late on the brakes. Oh, Button's having a think about it. They're still side by side. Fair play to both of them. They're giving each other room, and Verstappen should now have the advantage on the next section of track, you would think.
Yeah, but it's great to see that Jenson, despite their difficulties, he's trying to fight for every opportunity. But one of the most experienced drivers on the grid against one of the least experienced drivers, and certainly the youngest driver, but fantastic, clean racing from both of them.
Okay, Felipe, this is good. This is good. We're still happy. And plan A, still on plan A. Starting to lose the rears a little bit.
as Rosberg heads to the pits, and you see again the brake dust there coming out. So let's see, is he putting the primes on? Yes, indeed. White sidewall.
Nico Rosberg makes his pit stop. He switches from the soft tyre onto the medium compound tyre, and in theory, if he looks after that tyre, he can go all the way to the end. Now, surely we'll see Williams have to respond to this, because he's on a new set of tyres, and Williams will need to respond quickly. So I would imagine that we may see them in next time around.
And he comes out just in front of the Red Bulls, Daniel Ricciardo and Fiat, whereas Hulkenberg had just pitted behind him. So he'll be hoping that when he gets up onto the back of the Red Bulls, just before he does, they head to the pits for their stop. But of course, just to remind the viewers at home that both Red Bulls started on that medium tyre. So not the faster of the tyres, but certainly the more durable of the tyres available, with a predicted life of around 30 laps.
Now Kimi Räikkönen getting closer and closer to Marcus Ericsson, the Swedish driver. Ericsson, of course, in his second year in Formula One, he raced with the Caterham team last year. And big old spot on the screen there as he goes under the bridge for Kimi Räikkönen. It's not keeping everyone awake at Ferrari, but Räikkönen catching, and Williams are responding as expected. Now, the thing is, they can only respond with one car. So which car are they going to respond with here, David?
Well, won't have to wait long. It's just come across, and looks like it's Massa.
Now, that will put Bottas under a bit of pressure from Rosberg, won't it? Because you can't stop both cars on the same lap. Massa has the advantage, being the lead car.
Yeah, this is to cover the undercut, any advantage that Rosberg would get from the fresher tyres. And as you quite rightly point out, Bottas is therefore compromised a little bit in his race, but it's the nature of Formula One that we don't have two sets of pit stop crew to service the cars like in America.
Räikkönen has got past Ericsson now. That puts him 6th for the moment, because we've in fact 5th because of the various pit stops that are going on right now. Massa has rejoined, and in fact I think he may have lost the place to Rosberg. Rosberg's had a dynamite lap and he's very fast, and Rosberg has got ahead of Massa, so it looks as though they could get both Williams in the pit stops as Max Verstappen now comes into the pits.
He had a massive lock-up again, like his teammate coming to the pit line, and well, we may see a replay of that. You can still see the smoke there at the start of the pit lane, but yeah, Rosberg was able to go purple in the second and last sector and deliver that extra lap time, and that's where he's managed to get the undercut.
Well, this was just a replay of Räikkönen passing Ericsson, but more importantly, really, is the fact that Rosberg, as you say, David, did that great lap, and there he is, and look, he's not even really under pressure from Felipe Massa. Mercedes and Rosberg worked that brilliantly well. It was an early pit stop. Now, of course, if they are doing this on one stop, that's a long distance to go now on this medium tyre. It's certainly capable of doing it, so he should be okay to the end of the race. But not only one Williams, he looks like he's probably got past both. Bottas hasn't been in yet, so for the moment he stays in 3rd place, Valtteri Bottas. I assume that he will be coming in. Certainly coming in is Marcus Ericsson in the Sauber, who had already just been passed by Kimi Räikkönen, of course. Still having a good race so far here, Marcus Ericsson. Picked up a penalty yesterday for impeding Hulkenberg in qualifying. Cost him 3 places on the grid, but he's been looking confident and could be still on for some vital championship points for Sauber.
It's interesting that Williams left Bottas out for a further lap. He just trying to see the gaps. He's 25 seconds behind Hamilton, Rosberg 46 seconds. So he is going to lose out to Rosberg when he does his stop as well.
Currently on plan A, still plan A.
So again, that may well be a slightly later one-stop race, as he stays out on circuit for the moment. Hamilton hasn't made a pit stop yet either, but the gap between them is 11 seconds. It is a big old difference in performance, I'm afraid, between Mercedes and Ferrari, from the point of view of making a race of it anyway today. But Vettel could still get a very valuable 2nd place. Can he beat Rosberg? That's going to be the big question. You would think he can, but it's the Mercedes, clearly, when it gets into unfettered air, is going to be very, very fast. Now, still waiting to see where no, Bottas stays out there, so Williams have definitely changed strategy there.
Feel some dig in my front left. This car starts to understeer a little bit.
Front left is the one that on this soft tyre was the tyre expected to give up earlier than the others.
Yeah, but that's actually a comfortable message in terms of, as a driver, you're more concerned about losing the rear grip. Typically on traction, you start to lose performance, so your acceleration drops. But if your rear starts to go in these longer, medium-speed, high-speed corners, it really becomes quite uncomfortable. Understeer can cause you a bit of time, but it's more predictable. You know, you're looking at the problem rather than reacting to something that's going wrong behind you.
For the moment, I think he's staying out there. The track temperature, David, has remained at 38 degrees, so we haven't climbed up to that kind of 40-degree area where certainly would have made it a little more difficult, I think, to get through this race on a single pit stop. Carlos Sainz, I think, is going to have to certainly make it a two-stop race. Looks like most of the front runners are going to try and do it on one stop, but it was an earlier stop from Rosberg, and Bottas still staying out there, is he? No.
Coming in this time.
Now, let's not forget, it all went a bit wrong for Williams in the pit stop at Spa. They ended up putting the wrong tyre on amongst the four. They put one wrong tyre on, so I'm sure they've completely changed their systems, and I hope that won't be happening again. But he's going to drop back a bit here, isn't he? Let's see where he merges once again.
Well, Daniel Ricciardo is running 6 seconds behind Massa, so we have to assume he'll fall just into that window there. I assume he's going to have lost. He was running just over a second behind Massa. Having stayed out an extra couple of laps, he'll be further back from him.
Yeah.
Teammates just gone through.
Ricciardo's coming down the straight, but he will be out in front of Ricciardo, which is the key aspect, I suppose. That's the important thing from the team's point of view. And having lost the position to Rosberg, I guess they just got to protect the position they're now in.
Yeah, what I'm not sure on what the reason to stay out longer. It was quite clear the cars were quicker after the pit stop. Now, Williams may have had some information on traffic if they brought Valtteri in a couple of laps before or a lap earlier, and/or they're just bargaining on the fact that, okay, they lose out a bit now, but they give the tyre more life and more opportunity later in the Grand Prix when others may start to struggle.
Carlos Sainz getting past Felipe Nasr there into 13th position. Felipe Nasr has had a pit stop. They've both had a pit stop in this race so far.
So just information, you are matching Nico's time on the other tyre.
So Rosberg out there on the harder tyre, but Hamilton matching it on quite a worn, soft tyre. You've got to think that Mercedes will be bringing Hamilton in fairly soon now. Force India are certainly getting ready for a pit stop, no doubt about that, as Massa's just gone faster than anybody in the first sector. So let's see, this is Perez coming in, the man who drove very well at Spa, came home with a 5th place finish in the end, but we don't think that he's going to clear Ricciardo. But Ricciardo, of course, going deeper into the race on the other compound of tyre.
Yeah, we might get a tasty little battle down to the first corner. We've got Daniel Ricciardo, you could just see at the back of camera shot there, followed by his teammate Daniel Kvyat. And this is going to be very interesting. There he goes through, in fact, so he's going to be struggling with Daniel Kvyat as well as they battle on the brakes down to the first chicane.
Yeah, that's Kvyat up on the outside there. Can he swing round? Oh, we don't get to see. That's a great shame, because to see whether he stayed in front there. Meanwhile, we're watching Carlos Sainz as he now goes up against Button again. Here we are back with Kvyat, and that's how close Kvyat is to the back of Sergio Perez's car. You can have a little look.
Yeah, he defends nicely down into the second chicane. If he keeps it tidy, he'll certainly have the straight line speed to neutralise any attack from the Toro Rosso, from the Red Bull, but they do have the advantage of DRS running down towards the Ascari chicane, but it looks like Perez is just, those fresh tyres just opened the gap through the two Lesmans.
It's great, isn't it, when the fresh tyres come in? Of course, it gives him such an advantage. He's got good horsepower with the Mercedes power in the back of that Force India. And although there might have been a moment of anxiety as he saw Kvyat filling his mirrors in the first corner, I think he's now opened up the gap sufficiently. He'll be confident to hang on in there.
Sebastian, box.
In from second place comes Sebastian Vettel in the Ferrari. Well, he doesn't seem to have the pace to match Lewis Hamilton, but he's certainly well placed should Hamilton have any kind of problems here this afternoon. We're around the half-distance mark, so it's a comfortable one-stop race for the Ferrari. You would imagine there's no need for Mercedes to respond straight away, but you would imagine they may well decide to choose this moment to bring Hamilton in, even though he had a very comfortable advantage before that pit stop. So Vettel rejoins.
Yeah, just in front of his teammate Raikkonen, who's yet to pit.
Yes, of course, Raikkonen hasn't pitted, so he's going deep into this race as the Ferrari team trying to make up as much time as possible after that terrible start for Kimi Raikkonen, where he was just left on the grid.
Okay, Lewis, so box.
So it is time to respond. Meanwhile, Rosberg has just set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. He's only a little bit behind Raikkonen now, and you would think that he may well be able to pass the Ferrari. On board with Hamilton. Right, let's just ride with him and watch the pit stop as the race leader heads in for what should be his only pit stop of the day here at Monza.
He can afford to be slightly more cautious than others, and he's stopping the car down to the pit limit. First box advantage given to the Constructors' World Champion, so he gets a nice, clean, straight drive into his box, and that was slick work.
That was brilliant. The car barely seemed to stop. Interestingly, Jenson Button, his former teammate, coming into the pits at the same time. But that was a lovely stop from Lewis Hamilton. 2.7 seconds, actually not the fastest we've seen today, but it was a very quick stop indeed. And Sauber bearing down on him is that of Felipe Nasr. Will he get into the first corner ahead? Only just. No, he has to shortcut the chicane. Not really what Lewis wants to see on his way out of the pits.
No, but Nasr being very fair, having missed the chicane, knowing fine well that that is Lewis Hamilton and the Mercedes, the race leader. He keeps offline as he accelerates away.
We need to push now, Kimi.
Now let's listen to Rosberg.
So, Nico, it'll important to get past Kimi.
Yeah, it is quite key at this point in the race if they want to have a chance of closing up on Vettel. Vettel has made the pit stop, of course, and he's not that much farther up the road. Rosberg moves to the outside. Kimi defends that fairly easily on the way into Parabolica, but you would expect the Mercedes to have a good run out of the corner here, pick up the DRS. This ought to be very straightforward, I would think. He's on much fresher tyres, of course, as well. And, yep, he's straight past. But Raikkonen now also having a little good look at coming back at him. That was fair play. But in the end, there's nothing he could do, I think. Rosberg a bit deep into the corner, though.
Yeah, he certainly made Rosberg use every last part of that braking system down into the first chicane, but got the pass done.
Rosberg, of course, got his braking wrong a couple of times there last year in his race with Lewis Hamilton. He was leading in the early stages of the Grand Prix, but twice locked up into that first chicane, and Hamilton went through. Just looking at Sergio Perez here as he tries to gain another position. Just getting past Daniel Ricciardo. Or is he? No, Ricciardo defends back on the inside. So no way through there for the Mexican. Have to try somewhere else.
Well, while that battle's been going on, Daniel Kvyat has been in for his one stop, a fairly long time on those tyres.
Guys, it's time to stop. Copy, we're in this lap,
Yeah, Raikkonen struggling on the tyre, that's what he means. He's just got no grip and he can't compete. Kvyat, yes, just coming out onto the circuit after a long stint on that harder tyre. And there's Ferrari then, preparing for Kimi Raikkonen to make his one and only stop here this afternoon. So this is going to drop him back down into the clutches of the Williams and indeed the Red Bulls, although we're still waiting for Ricciardo to come in. Oh my goodness, what happened there? He almost got hit by the Marussia.
Yeah, completely unsighted with where the Ferrari was going to stop. That was Roberto Meri. It locks it all up. And, well, did he get it slowed down before the speed limit? We'll find out, but slick work again from the Ferrari team.
That looked like we were very close to impact between the Marussia and the Ferrari, but somehow Roberto Meri managed to keep out of the back of it. Let's see where he comes back out here. He's going to drop a couple of places. Yeah, coming out behind Hulkenberg and Ericsson. So that's got some work now for Kimi Raikkonen to do once more.
Interestingly, Roberto Meri not that far behind coming out of the pit lane, so the Marussia team did a good pit stop as well, but you can just see he's already locking up and completely caught out by how quickly Kimi slowed down. You know, it looks like he stopped the car, Meri, before he got anywhere near to the pit line, but how close was that?
Yeah, the big twitch initially. Do you think he sort of had to come off the brake and then back on it?
Yeah, I think it's a good point. Rear stability issues, and they harvest through the braking phase and harvest energy and store it in the battery. So under rotation on the rear axle of Marussia, and as you mentioned, Ben, then have to come off the brake pedal slightly.
So we are expecting Daniel Ricciardo to make his pit stop. Here comes the Australian then to a halt. On go the soft tyres, and he's going to be one of very few drivers on the soft tyre at this stage of the Grand Prix. His teammate Danny Kvyat's done the same thing. Carlos Sainz is on a set of them, but he's due another pit stop.
And of course, with the qualifying problems they had and the engine penalties, that's a brand new set of those option tyres. So not only does he get the advantage of the first lap performance, gets a 3 laps effectively life longer than if you'd used them in qualifying.
Ricciardo's come out in 10th place, just ahead of his teammate Danny Kvyat. So both Red Bulls are on for points, but they did come from the back. Now, we lost 2 cars on the opening lap of this race, I'm afraid, and they were both Lotus cars. Lee's talking to Romain Grosjean.
Romain, another frustrating day. Tell us what the problem was today and what happened out there.
Fortunately, we really good start, but then got hit on the first corner by I think it was a Sauber, and that broke our rear suspension, so we had to retire the car after 1 lap.
And it's a shame as well, both Lotus out. It seems like contact for both cars.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was a reaction that the Sauber hit me, and my rear end snapped and went to the Force India that touched Pastor and both cars out when we could have scored a lot of points today. So, yeah, it's a bit disappointed to walk all weekend long and being hit at the first corner.
Bad luck. Thank you.
Kimi Räikkönen has moved up to 9th place now. He's got back past Marcus Ericsson once again. The pit strategy is playing out. He's had to get past that Sauber a couple of times in this Grand Prix. But it does give him the chance now to close up on Nico Hülkenberg. Could be a little bit more difficult, perhaps, to get past the Force India. Let's see what's happening up front. Well, there's Lewis Hamilton, and he's somewhat lonely up there, I have to say, because he is nearly 20 seconds ahead of Sebastian Vettel. I mean, talk about masterclass, David. He is in a world of his own out there at the moment.
Well, for all the Lewis Hamilton fans, this is a beautiful thing. For those who prefer other manufacturers or other drivers, then this, I'm sure, will be causing them frustration. But he certainly is at, well, is he at the top of his game? Difficult to imagine he can climb any higher. He's got the right blend of experience and speed and sort of comfort in the world that he lives in. He seems to have a freedom away from the racetrack that Mercedes absolutely employed right from the very first time they signed his contract, which wasn't always the case. It appeared when he was at McLaren, where they tried to sort of control and you know, guide him along. And well, if it's ever an example about making sure your head's in the right place before you unleash your talent, it's certainly showing us just how strong he can be. Just needs to watch out now as he makes his way through the inevitable traffic of this Grand Prix, that he doesn't find himself getting caught out like the late great Ayrton Senna did. If you remember, at the first chicane, leading here would have been a clean sweep of wins for McLaren in that year, when he came together with Schlesser.
Räikkönen gets down the inside of Nico Hülkenberg and gains another place. That puts him into 7th position now as he continues this recovery from that terrible start. But just how many points can the Ferrari pick up here today?
At the moment, lap times, tyre deg are all pointing to the one stop. So, Nico, just be aware Vettel's tyres went off earlier than anybody else on the option, so we're expecting the same on the prime. So we think P2 is still possible. We just need to close the gap, looking after the brakes, and then attack when his tyres go off.
battle for 13th place, seeing Max Verstappen, who's always one to watch on the brakes. Let's see whether he can go around the outside of Nasser. He goes too deep, surely. No, wow, that was wonderful. He gets past him. Remember, it was Nasser that he passed around the outside of Blanchimont at Spa. I think he's got him a bit outside now. He's done him around the outside into the chicane with a good set of tyres, mind you.
Yeah, taking advantage of what's at his disposal, but he has shown, if you go back to the Chinese Grand Prix as well, he's got good feel, good instinctive racing feel that he's developed through all those years of karting, and certainly hasn't developed it in all these years of car racing because he's only 17.
He's done 1 year of car racing, yeah, but lots of years at kart racing, of course, where he's been brilliant. Raced a lot in Italy in the karts as well. So there's Sebastian Vettel, still doing enough to keep Rosberg behind. They're almost identical lap times.
Come on now, blue flag.
Yeah, and Vettel wanting a bit more response to the blue flag.
And he got that, and you can see the blue boards flashing as well. These boards are a common feature of Grand Prix tracks now. We'll show a blue, a yellow if necessary, a red of course if we have to stop the cars out on track. They also have a display system in the cockpit of the cars, which is the flag marshalling system. So if they can't see those huge boards around the track or the marshals waving the flag, then right beside where they have the red lights, there'll be a blue light coming on there as well.
Well, there's plenty of flags being flown, that's for sure, and lights going on all over the place. And Sebastian Vettel is thus able to get past Felipe Nasr without any problem at all and maintain that 4-second advantage that he has in second place over Nico Rosberg in third. That fastest lap by Lewis Hamilton, a 1:26.8 by the way, about 1.2 seconds faster than the fastest lap he did here last year.
Well, the reason Vettel was on the radio expressing a little frustration, just that exercise of overtaking the Sauber has allowed Rosberg to go half a second quicker last time around. So as you mentioned, Ben, it's a 4.2 second gap. In my mind's eye, once you're into a 3-second gap, that's an uncomfortable gap if you're the lead car, because you know one little error, one piece of traffic, then the guy can suddenly be right on your gearbox.
something is not working on the back. It just reminds me of last year. No traction, no rear grip, nothing.
Brakes okay? I can't see the oxidation. No, everything looks okay from our side.
Just 3.4 seconds from Vettel to Rosberg.
Try diff mid 5, currently showing you in a strange position.
Meanwhile, interestingly, just down the back, you can see that Alonso's catching Button a little bit at the moment. He's got the gap down to 1.7 seconds on that last lap. So, yeah, good effort that from Alonso. He's on the soft tyre, so that's why I think he's on a different strategy. And it's working well for Alonso. At the back of the field, we've got Will Stevens ahead of his teammate, Roberto Merri, by 9.5 seconds. But, of course, the two drivers that are not playing a part in this are Romain Grosjean. We heard from him earlier. Let's hear now from Pastor Maldonado.
Oh, Pastor, what an unlucky start to the race for both Lotus, really. Tell us about it from your seat.
Yeah, it was quite short. I mean, in the first corner after the start, it was very, very close against one of the Force India. I don't know who was it exactly. I think it was Hulkenberg, but I'm 100% sure. I didn't show the images yet, but yeah, it was quite close, and then he came into my car. It was a small contact, but it was enough to break my suspension.
So Pastor Maldonado and Romain Grosjean both out on the opening lap of this Grand Prix. Raikkonen, though, catching Sergio Perez here. The gap down to just under 2 seconds, so he's not quite within the DRS range. And also, in that battle for second place, there's no doubt that Rosberg's a bit closer again to Vettel, because it's down to 2.8 seconds now between Vettel and Rosberg. Behind them, by the way, still Massa in 4th, Bottas in 5th, and then these guys in 6th and 7th places.
Well, Vettel, very experienced, more than capable, of course, of taking the pressure. But again, you get that information on your pit board that gap's slowly been coming down. He'll know 2.8 seconds. He'll be able to see in his mirrors in the distance the Mercedes car. So you start to, look more closely at your braking point. You, instead of the sort of loose feel of carrying the momentum around the racetrack, you start to maybe overanalyze to avoid any mistake. And that's going to play to Rosberg's advantage as well. Still a lot of brake dust coming off that car, though. The last images we saw of him braking into Parabolica. So is he going to have to back off towards the end of the race?
There's Kimi. He's still chasing down the Force India, and he's still bringing that gap down little bit by little bit in the first sector of the lap. They were virtually identical. Let's just see how they get on through the second sector of the lap. Meanwhile, Rosberg and Vettel, very similar lap times as well. What's going on at Mercedes? Bit of concern there. There's definitely a bit of worry there. Mercedes, as they had a message from Hamilton.
Yeah, I was trying to see if you could lip read, but then Toto was in listening mode.
Okay, Lewis, we're going to go strap mode 3. Strap mode 3, we need to pull a gap, we need to pull a gap. Don't ask questions, just execute.
Okay,
they could go for another tyre stop.
Yeah,
they could manage it.
Yeah, it could be that. Have they got an issue where they think they're going to struggle with the battery? I'm not familiar, of course, with their strat modes, their strategy modes, but he's delivering. He's gone purple in the middle sector.
He needs 25 seconds gap over Vettel to complete a pit stop and get back out in front, remember, and he's just gone fastest of all in the middle sector.
Now, is it as a result of that lockup? Has he got a big flat spot, or is there another issue on reliability on the car? We're not sure at which point that lockup and the replay that we're seeing there actually happened.
Let's see what the gap is going to be this time around. That's a good lap, new fastest lap, of course.
Okay, let's just grab some hammer time lap times. We just need some good lap times now. No need to ask questions, we'll just explain it at the end.
Interesting situation, that. I mean, how does a driver feel being given that instruction?
Well, he knows he has a problem. That's he'll know that it's not to do with the capability of unleashing lap time, because he's just on a 26.6, the fastest of anyone out there. So he'll immediately know there's an issue. He'll remember well Monaco, what happened there, and he'll be working out that this is more than likely they need the gap to do an extra stop.
Well, looks as though we could be in for a little bit of late-minute drama here in Monza, as we were at Spa, and it could well be tyre-related, not a failure, but maybe it's a flat spot. We just don't know at the moment. Raikkonen has caught Perez, and really is within DRS range now, so can he do the business, get out of that parabolica corner fast enough to pick up the slipstream, use the DRS and get past? Remember, the Perez was fastest in the speed traps in qualifying yesterday. They've set up a very low downforce Force India, and I think it's going to be quite hard to pass him in a straight line.
Yeah, just thinking through what could be the issue for Hamilton. We don't believe they've seen any issue with flat spot in the pits. It would be unlikely if it was so severe that it was causing him a concern, that the information would be coming from the team. So there must be some other issue that they're seeing there on their telemetry. So delivering the fast times. So it's clearly, whatever it is Mercedes are seeing, hasn't manifested itself in actually reducing the ability of them to drive the fast times.
Interestingly, Alonso's just pitted, so he got past Button.
I've not got a lot of pace in me. What do I need to do? I can't get much quicker.
Yeah, what you're doing is great, Lewis. That's all we need. Just stabilise on pace, and that is great.
Alonso's out of his car. He jumped out in fairly peremptory fashion, and he is already in the back of the McLaren pit garage. So Alonso retires from the Grand Prix. Meanwhile, interestingly, between the two Williams drivers, it's all getting quite close. Bottas has interestingly got within a second of Felipe Massa for fourth place. Raikkonen here now much closer than he has been, with a chance to get past Sergio Perez. Moves to the outside. Can he complete the manoeuvre? Yes, he can. And the Tifosi are loving that as he gains a place, and he has moved up into sixth position. But Williams have not finished their own little fight yet either. Here comes Perez back. Raikkonen is going to have to defend as they come down towards the second chicane. He's got the inside line, definitely the place to be, and as long as he doesn't brake too late, this time he should hang on to it. Great racing though from Kimi Raikkonen and Sergio Perez, and Raikkonen's been working on that move for lap after lap. Mind you, he started on the front row, and he's just looking at a sixth place finish here today.
Yeah, no, what they would have predicted, having had that fantastic qualifying, but a great comeback nonetheless. And here's that battle you teed up between the Williams drivers and Valtteri Bottas right in the zone. Just at 1.1 seconds across the line last time. This is less than a second clearly. So he's in DRS zone, and Massa will be vulnerable.
He will, and of course they're allowed to race. There's no team orders, and Bottas with a chance to close up, but he's not quite there on this lap. Still a couple of laps to go. 50 laps completed out of 53. That's from Rosberg. Rosberg's in trouble with his engine. Surely there's a fire in the back of Rosberg's car. Oh, it's all over at Monza for Nico Rosberg when he was in third place. And the Tifosi are happy enough, but Nico Rosberg, he retires from the Italian Grand Prix on what a blow this is in his World Championship hopes.
Oh, fantastic fast work there from the marshals, getting that fire under control, and the car is clear for them to touch. It's going to neutralise overtaking down into that zone with only 2 laps remaining.
Remember, they went back to an engine they had used at Spa. This was the 6th race of that engine, and it's presumably just been a race too far. And Sergio Macchioni there of Ferrari having a look, because of course that gives them a chance to move Raikkonen up the order. A Mercedes power unit failure. Well, we haven't seen one of those in the Mercedes chassis this year at all. They have had 100% reliability in the races up till now, but it's Rosberg who suffers the first non-finish of that Mercedes team. Meanwhile, Hamilton's still going quickly. Hamilton has opened up a 25-second lead now over Vettel. He could make a pit stop if he needs to. How much anxiety is there at Mercedes about Lewis Hamilton's car?
Well, it doesn't look like it's a comfortable place sitting there. Paddy Lowe holding his hand under his chin. This is Hamilton.
So there's no need to take any risks, just keep doing what you're doing.
Well, no, picking up the pace to where I was is taking risks.
Yeah, that's a fair point from Lewis Hamilton. If you're going to ask me to go flat out, then he's going to have to take risks with the equipment, with everything. But right now, if you look at how the championship would be, if it stays this way, Lewis will have a massive lead. Let's see what happened when it all went wrong for him.
This is down into the first chicane. Look how close he got himself to Vettel. Vettel right in the pressure zone. And then the engine down into the second chicane, has let go.
Well, this has brought Danny Kvyat up into the top 10 now. So starting from the back of the field, another look at the blow up there, pretty dramatic. And we don't often see that with a Mercedes power unit. But to be fair to the team, they've done a lot of mileage with that engine. This all goes back to yesterday when they had to change engines. Look how close Valtteri Bottas is this time to his teammate Felipe Massa. Bottas on the slightly fresher tyres as well. Surely got a chance.
Well, that's exactly it. Remember, we were saying when he came in later for his stop, it would play out later in the Grand Prix. Massa struggling for grip, and this he should be able to defend well enough into the first chicane, but he'll be vulnerable down into the second.
We are on to the final lap here at Monza, and a little like at Spa, it's all building up to a great climax. Hamilton seems to be safe in front, despite some great concern at Mercedes, but which of the Williams is going to finish in third? This is for the podium, remember. Massa trying to defend, he has so far into the second chicane. Bottas desperate to try and get past him. Massa was third here last year, but here comes Lewis Hamilton, and Hamilton takes victory at Monza, his 7th win of 2015. And he is still on target to match Ayrton Senna's 41 career victories and 161 races if he wins next time out in Singapore. Here comes Sebastian Vettel. Listen to the response he gets. He finishes in 2nd place. Ferrari beaten, but still getting a podium finish today. They'll be able to celebrate that. And which of the Williams is going to finish third? Well, I'm looking around the track, and at the moment it's still Massa. I think Massa's going to do enough here. They will fight to the line. They're just coming into Parabolica, but I think that Felipe Massa has done enough. He is just crossing the line now, and Massa takes third. Bottas is 4th. Great points for Williams, picking up the pieces when Rosberg failed to finish. Kimi Raikkonen will finish in 5th place in the end. Perez in 6th. Hulkenberg 7th. Daniel Ricciardo in 8th. Marcus Ericsson a good 9th. And Danny Kvyat picking up the final point in 10th.
Okay, Lewis, thanks for that. I'll explain everything when I see you.
I have to say, Bono, that those last few laps were not cool, man.
Yeah, so just talk about 0. Yeah, okay, Lewis, copy that. So I'll speak to you in a bit.
I totally understand Lewis being a bit upset about that, because hopefully we'll get the story, but why they couldn't explain to him a little bit more about what was going on. keeping him in the dark didn't seem to be a natural thing to do somehow.
Well, it's because they know that all of that radio broadcast is coming to us and all of the other broadcasters around the world. That's knowledge is power, and if you give that knowledge out to your opposition, then they can change the tactics and react. So it has obviously, understandably, as you say, then put Lewis in a slightly uncomfortable position, but at the end of the day, he has won the Grand Prix and won it well.
Yes, well done, Seb, well done. You deserve this podium. Best of the season, enjoy it, our podium.
Woohoo! Grazie ragazzi, grazie. Forza Ferrari, forza Monza, sempre, sempre. Grazie.
Oh dear, and there the smoky remains of Nico Rosberg's car. Smoke pouring out of virtually every orifice there. Not a great finish, I'm afraid, for Rosberg. And you have to ask, is that the end of the battle in the World Championship? Still a long way to go, but Hamilton has won at Monza, and he picks up 25 points. Vettel in second place for Ferrari. Felipe Massa beating Bottas to third in the end. Raikkonen was fifth ahead of the two Force Indias. They've scored well today. Ricciardo eighth, Ericsson ninth, Kvyat 10th, and then the other finishers, Sainz and Verstappen outside the points, I'm afraid. Jenson Button 14th, Alonso a late retirement there, classified 18th, but not running at the end, and the two Lotuses, of course, out as well. But for Lewis Hamilton, it's another victory. And here at Monza, it proves that pole position is the place to be. It's the 6th win from pole in a row here. And it was by a big margin as well. 25 seconds, not the biggest ever, but that was a big winning margin. Sebastian Vettel finishing in second. A funny little quirk in the statistics in that Ferrari have taken their 65th podium at the 65th Monza Grand Prix. The 65th podium here at their 65th Monza Grand Prix. So that's quite a nice one. But Lewis Hamilton's the winner, and what a move he has made in terms of the World Championship now. He is 53 points ahead of Nico Rosberg. That's 2 race wins.
Yeah, guys, oh my God, I'm too old for that. Too old. Thank you, guys, brilliant race.
Rubbish, not too old. We're just starting out, mate.
It's lovely to hear Felipe Massa there.
Thank you. Well done. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Explain later.
Hey, long bye.
Where have you been?
Back.
Yeah, it's big enough for rubbers. We drive a buggy. You know, we drive a car, we drive a buggy. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Aye. Getting old for this. Last 3 laps, Valtteri was trying to pass me. Getting old. Yeah. Yeah.
This is a bit special here, isn't it?
This is one of the most special podiums in Formula One. Because of the layout of it, it comes out over the track itself with thousands of people down below. It's truly special. Third place, Felipe Massa. Second place, first time he's been up here as a Ferrari driver, Sebastian Vettel. And for the second year in a row here at Monza, Lewis Hamilton taking his third win in all at this track.
And Jeffrey Willis in their honour, the British and German national anthems. Well done to Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes-AMG Petronas. The trophy is presented to Lewis by Gianluca Galletti, Minister of the Environment.
He always says how much he loves racing here in Italy. Oh, what a dominant win. It might not be popular with everybody down there because, of course, he's not a Ferrari driver. But there are plenty of Union flags. And I tell you what, he is doing a lot to endear himself to the fans here. I saw him come in this morning, lighting up the rear tyre on his motorbike just for the sake of the fans who were there. And they absolutely loved it. And he spent a lot of time signing autographs, did Hamilton as well. So whilst a few of them might not like him winning here, I think that he also has a lot of support. Now listen to the cheer for Vettel.
Under Secretary of State of the Ministry of Justice. Well done to Sebastian Vettel and Scuderia Ferrari.
He knows what it's like to be booed up on this podium when he was driving for Red Bull. Now it's a different story driving for Ferrari. Of course, the next step is to try and take that team to a World Championship title. And Felipe Massa is popular as an ex-Ferrari driver.
Well done, gentlemen. And now, at at your feet is...
It's celebration time on the famous Monza podium. Lewis Hamilton has taken a dominant win in his Mercedes, but for the first time this year we saw a bit of a chink in the Mercedes armour as Rosberg failed to finish. Sebastian Vettel finishing in second place and keeping Ferrari in the hunt and showing that progress that is continuing to be made. And Felipe Massa, great points for Williams here today as they know they'll be under threat from Red Bull.